Hello, humans. Welcome. If you are new, there may be some things that'll be a bit different than maybe other teachers you work with, other courses. So I'm going to go through those today. So this is session one. We're not going to go too hardcore today. It's going to be pretty chill. And, I think the learning will be quite intense from next week. Today we're going to do a breakout room at some point. So be ready for that. Actually, I've got a few slides we can look at. There we go. So, superpowers. We are on the Trauma Superpowers course, short course, but a good one, I think. We ran it last year, something very similar, and people really liked it. So, I think, yeah, this is a pretty unique model of trauma that I think you'll enjoy. So, we're going to go course outline, some housekeeping, what I expect from you guys. There are some standards for being here, actually. And they might be different than other courses you've done with me because trauma has risks associated with it, right? In terms of the subject matter and the topic. So I'm a little stricter sometimes on trauma courses than some of our more casual courses. We'll touch on self-care, though we've got dedicated sessions on that. We're going to really today just make sure we're all on the same page around trauma. And then there'll be time for definite questions at the end after definitions. Okay, let me find out a bit about you guys. So what's your main job? Can you put that in the chat? Your main job. Location's useful because it might tell me something about your cultural background. That's quite important to me and something I'm quite strong on. We have culture in Europe. So if you're from America, I know it's strange because you just have sort of one country, but we have all these little countries with lots of cultures. I've taught about 50, so I'm fascinated by that. This also might say something about sort of, cultural trauma you've inherited. Therapist, coach, senior citizen, valid. Pelvic health, great. Orthopreneur, I don't know what that is. Is that an entrepreneur who writes books? Fitness teacher, love that. I combine this with weightlifting sometimes, though we won't be doing that in this course. Cool. Yeah, coaches, lots of coaches. We train lots of coaches. Yeah. So I'm going to assume you have some background in working with people, but I won't assume you're necessarily a coach or a therapist or a yoga teacher, because you might be any one of those things. Yeah, but I'm going to assume some sort of general facilitation skills. I believe that's how we sold this, right? Like 4 coaches. That was the nature of it. So when I say coach, if you're not a coach, just translate it into school teacher or, therapist or whatever. Therapists, by the way, in particular, it may be a culture shock for you to be here. I teach with quite a different, let's say, tone to some therapy courses where everyone says, "Oh, let's sit in a circle and talk about our feelings." That's not going to happen. Okay, hopefully you've done your homework and you know what you've gotten into, because we won't give you a refund. Suffolk, driving home, yeah. So if you are driving in the future, don't do that. Okay. Be somewhere where your kids won't be around. You're not in Starbucks. A, because the coffee is terrible. But B, because we don't want you in public. There'll be breakout rooms, interaction. And if you imagine you're driving and suddenly you kind of get triggered by some traumatic topic, that's not great, is it? If you're in charge of a potential deathmobile. So I know you didn't get this in advance. So today, if you're eating your dinner, Leanne, I'm slightly jealous. I'd recommend not eating your dinner while talking about trauma. Anyone know why? Why might not help with the digestion, right? It talking about trauma. Yeah, so just because I have an Italian girlfriend, I want you all to have wonderful digestion. Walking, I normally think is fine, but I'd say on this course, it's better if we're here, fully present. Though, if you want to sort of stretch and get up and move around your room, I actually encourage that. It's not school. You want to have a little shake, have a little stretch, have a little move. Really good for helping things move through. Yeah, no worries. And I said I'm a bit stricter than my other courses, and you didn't know this in advance. Let me introduce my colleagues actually before I go any further. So Dr. Helen, a real medical doctor, a pagan, a lovely lady. She's my rock and knows quite a bit about trauma, is here. So do you want to say hello, Helen?
Hello, everybody. Very good to be here.
She's the grandmother you wish you had. Aunt, is grandmother too old? I don't know. Okay, and Virginia is here. Is also, you've probably spoken to her, hassled her, tried to get a discount unsuccessfully in customer service. Virginia has a strong background in women's work and Greek mythology and all sorts of interesting things. Virginia, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here.
I have the most overqualified assistants in the world, by the way. So if I'm ever ill or not here, they can just fucking teach, and it's really no problem. And you'll probably learn more. Sarah is also here, who's my colleague. She's going to be doing a session on self-care with you guys. A bit of feminine touch, a bit of yin to my yang. She might well be hanging around on some other sessions too. Would you like to say hello, Sarah? We can have to enable you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's nice to be here.
Sarah's how you expect an English person to be. Lovely, not like me. Okay. And she also does grief coaching. So if you want to, if you're upset, talk to her, not me. You'll get much more sympathy. She'll sort of tilt her head and make sympathetic feminine noises. It'll be great. Yes, the team's great, basically, especially with this many people. This is a small group for us. Practical things. If you would like me to slow down because you have a non-ADHD brain, you can do this. Everyone practice this. So that means, Mark, please do it before you hate me. Okay, because I do get excited. Whose first language isn't English? You unlucky people. Okay, I know we have Serbians, dobro veče. We have French, bonsoir, kalispera. What else do we have? Guten Tag. Hello, that's Swedish. Have I included everybody? Mexican, yeah. Hola. Austria, basically Germany. Germany light, isn't it? No. So I will be making jokes about all your countries. I'll try and be sort of equal in the joke. So if you feel like I'm missing you out, then just let me know and I'll bring it in. And there'll be jokes about English and Irish, of course. So I'll cover myself. Good. As I said, cultural stuff, a big deal. Language wise, if you would like BBC English, this is the B sign. Everyone do the B sign. If you ask for BBC English, I will stop swearing and pronounce every consonant fully so you can understand me. And by the way, Americans, you can do that too, okay? Because the English you speak is maybe not my English. So yes, very few actual English. You know who speaks the best English? Posh Indians. That's who speaks the best English. It's not even English people anymore. Posh Indians speak. Mwah, delicious, delicious English. Okay, that's a little note of language. Here's what I expect from you. Oh my God, I have expectations. Yes. Click the wrong button. So be on time. Don't be late because the stuff at the beginning is often pretty important. We'll probably stop. We'll do the Zen thing and not let you in if you're too late. Come well. You're a grown-up. That's your job. So that's also for me, right? That's an expectation on me. I don't turn up to teach fucked up. Oh, I might swear, by the way. So headphones if you have children, but generally no children around anyway. So yes, come resourced, come well. Like I had a snack before I taught tonight because I was like a bit low blood sugar and I got caught out by that yesterday because I'm losing weight at the minute. So I had a little protein bar and now I'm weller. Does that make sense? Yeah. Actually, let's just do a quick well-being check. On a scale of 1 to totally screwed up, being 10, how is your life right now? So 10 would be your dog's got herpes, your mum's got cancer, you're going through a divorce, and you've got no money. That would be like, everything's gone wrong. Yeah. 0 would be you're on a beach in Thailand, and your only problem is what kind of margarita to have. Okay. So, like, how sort of resourced are you? Does that make sense? 10, I'm sorry, how fucked up? So 10 is the most fucked up. Does it make sense? So 10 would be totally fucked up. I'm like a good 2 or 3, like pretty low fucked up. Does it make sense? Hold up, fingers. Is anyone holding up a 9 or a 10? If you're holding up a 9 or a 10, I would recommend going to therapy and not a course about trauma. This is an educational context, not a therapy context. Do you understand the difference? In therapy, you can go and you can cry like a snotty mess all over your therapist for an hour and they'll be nice to you. If you do that here, you just won't learn anything. You're in the wrong place and there's no one to hug you and make you feel good. Yeah. It's just a very different activity. It's not bad. I have a therapist and it's a different context. Does that make sense? Yeah. So sometimes a warning sign for me is people start really oversharing about their childhood and abuse and things like that. Please don't do that. We're just not doing that here. We're in an educational context for robust adults. Does this make sense? I give you an idea. I was swearing the other day and someone said, I'm triggered. And I'm like, then you should go to a therapist because sometimes adults swear. And you might not like swearing, but if you are actually triggered by that, i.e., you are having a full trauma response, you're in the wrong place. Right? Like, you could ask me, hey, Mark, maybe you don't swear so much. Oh, okay, fair enough. But like if you said I was triggered by people wearing nice jackets from Slovenia, again, that's on you. That's not on me. Make sense? Yeah. So we are going to be talking about things that could be triggering. So, I'm not going to give gruesome details of the worst war crimes I've, heard about from my Ukraine team or something, right? I'm not going to go too hardcore, but we will be talking about difficult things. So this is why you need to be resourced. Yeah. So turn up, resourced, and if you are triggered, like in the actual sense of having a trauma enactment as a result of some stimulus that reminds you of the trauma, that's something you need to deal with. Does that make sense? Like your chances of coaching someone else later down the line are pretty slim. Yeah, if you're getting triggered by just chatting about it on Zoom with a nice bunch of people. Good. Other things on my little list there. So be a learner. Don't go coaching everyone straight away, but mostly be in learning mode. Some of you know about trolls of learning. Who is some kind of teacher, trainer, facilitator? You know everything already, don't you, you little buggers? Yeah. So show me your most obnoxious, I know everything already embodiment. I should be teaching this class. That's a misunderstanding of polyvagal theory, actually. Yeah. Okay. So don't do that. Do something else. All right. Please be learners, because otherwise you're wasting my time and your money. Makes sense? Yeah. I have like a teacher hat and a learner hat. And they're different. They're quite different. Yeah. All right. Camera on. Yeah, no kids, no being in public. No selling stuff to each other or shagging each other. Okay. So I know it's tempting. There's so many good-looking people on this course, but don't be hitting them up. Can we all have an agreement that we're not going to try and sell services to each other or try and hit on each other? Just hands up if you're willing to agree to that. And Yana, you can put your hand up electronically. Is that fair? Pretty straightforward. Sarah, you too. I know. With these guns, it's tempting, isn't it? It's tempting. But no, not in between colleagues. Okay. The other one is confidentiality. So my jokes and everyone's sharing stay here. Yeah, this is quite important. So if we do breakout rooms, they stay in the breakout room. Obviously, any information I'm sharing, please tell other people. But we're not recording it. We're not bringing AIs to record it. We're not taking pictures. If you want to take a picture of a slide, I'll just give people a minute to turn their cameras off. So don't do that without asking. So confidentiality, who's here, what they say. No one likes a grass. Yeah. Do you know what a grass is? It's British slang. Give me a BBC if you don't know what I mean. Okay. Grass is a snitch. It's someone who tells the police things. Snitch makes sense. Yeah. So can we all agree to confidentiality? Give me a thumbs up if that's all right. Basic shit, but worth saying. I think, is that everyone? David, let's see a thumbs up. Frankie. Yeah. All right, good. All right. Basic stuff, but worth doing, huh? Any other rules you'd like? Anything else that would be helpful? Any agreements? It's definitely not a safe space. Ethical space, not a safe space. Big difference. You might get upset. I'm not going to treat people with kid gloves. So I want to get you to a standard of education. Yeah. Anything else people feel missing? Add. Sorry, you want to chip in? Anything I'm forgetting to say, which is quite likely.
I think that's all the usual things covered.
Yeah, not offering therapy to each other. Virginia's just mentioned to me as well. So we're going to give you an opportunity to have breakout groups. In those groups, again, same thing. Not your private therapy group. Do not be oversharing. They're educational groups. All right. Or otherwise, people will be sending Virginia messages saying such and such keeps crying in our group, and they won't shut up about the hamster that abused them when they were a child, and then Virginia will have to get involved, and it's just work for everyone. Yeah. So good. All right. This is what we're doing. Can you read that? This is straight from the sales page. There's nothing you haven't read before. There's a lot on there. Give me a thumbs up when you've read it. Okay. You read that before. Schedule, probably the easiest way, is the exact same schedule on the website that you've seen before. So it's on here. If you haven't got those dates, you know, couple to watch out for. There's 2 Thursdays. The first one will be with Sarah. 1, because she's nice and has a different point of view to me. And 2, because I'm in Austin teaching in Texas. So Sarah will do the first one. I'll do the second one with how to not get traumatized. We are experts in this. Sarah deals with people who have lost loved ones every single day of the bloody week. I don't know how she does it. I deal with traumatized Ukrainians who have seen the worst things imaginable. So this is a really important one. We'll give you a couple of perspectives on that. Things, red flags, things to watch out for, rituals, things you can do embodiment-wise, all sorts of shit. Sarah, let's make sure we touch base before then so we don't teach the same stuff. All right, good. Is this what you expected? Yes, it's on the sales page. This is how we have integrity, by the way, as a company. I look at the sales page beforehand and go, can I teach that? And afterwards I go, I got to teach that. Simple, isn't it? See how it works? It's very easy. It's very easy. Yeah. All good. Questions so far? Sandra, that might be an issue for the future in terms of learning the techniques, but for today, we can make that work. Any questions so far? So what you expected? Nothing new? Kind of makes sense. How long the sessions? They're an hour. We will never go late. Okay, I'm quite boundaried on that, so don't worry. Occasionally finish 5 minutes early, but it's pretty late on it. Yes. Weekly peer group. So if you want, you can have a peer group and you meet every week. You arrange that between yourself. Helen, do you want to tell people how it works?
Yes, we create a WhatsApp chat that you can join. You can request peers. You can offer a time that you want to meet. It's the best place we've found to join. Assigning peer groups is ever so challenging, and often it doesn't work for many people. So finding your own peers works very well in a group this size.
You don't have WhatsApp, download it. It's free. It's like Messenger or Telegram or Signal, and Europeans use it. Do Americans use WhatsApp now? It used to be they didn't. They do now? Well, good. If you caught on. Excellent. Well done. Good. Well, the East Europeans all use Telegram, that I know, which is very similar. Okay, so you can do that later. So we don't spend time now. Click on that. If you want a peer group, you don't have to. It's not mandatory. Alrighty. Let's keep moving. So not group therapy, and we're not training you to be therapists. Yeah, obviously, we're not training you to be therapists. We're training you to be a little bit of coaching to add to what you do. We can clarify later on what you can and can't do. People have all sorts of questions and fears and neuroticism about that. We'll clarify it later. For now, though, nothing is the answer. Don't do anything with this stuff. That's the immediate answer, because we haven't gone through a load of shit that's really important. So don't, straight away start doing stuff. Goals. What do you want to get out of this course? And second one, how are you going to look after yourself on the course? Let's do a breakout room so you have a chance to meet a few people. Groups of 4 for 5 minutes. 2 questions. What do you want to get from this course? Just say, don't blab about it. There's only 5 minutes. Second question is, how are you going to look after yourself on this course? Just a prime Sarah's session in a couple of weeks. So, make sense? What do you want? How are you going to look after yourself? Go. Okay, welcome back. USA British made. I think the British made thing, I think we should do the made thing from now on. That's a couple of people have done that today. Okay. Did you meet some nice people? Or were they crazy? Good. Welcome back. Camera's on if you wouldn't mind. So, what do you want? Stick it in chat. What do you want? Like, keep it short. check you're in the right place if I can deliver. What do you want? Stovi hoticha. It's for my Russian-speaking friend. That was the polite form, wasn't it, Daria? That's polite form. Extra tools, yeah, reinforce, great. Yana mentioned it. Helpful for the strengths, good. Refresh, love the idea of superpowers. Yeah, it's a nice idea. It's a nice idea, and there's very concrete reasons why people like the idea. Actually, I've broken it down. Good. And how are you going to look after yourself? What's your self-care plan? I don't have any. I'm just going to sit in an 8-week trauma course and watch my alcoholism spiral into despair. No, don't do that. Okay. Some of you are from Eastern Europe and you like to drink, I know. What's your self-care plan? If you haven't got one, you might want to start thinking about it, because next week we're gearing up. Yeah, this is me giving you pre-warning. Something Sarah can take you through a little bit. Yeah, and how will you know that you need one? This is the first idea of what we call a red flag. It's like, oh, like one of mine is like start eating loads of sugar, for example. That's normally a bad sign. For me, it's like, okay, something's going downhill here. Forgetting to eat. I've literally never forgotten to eat in my life. I've heard of this phenomenon. I eat more, but that's because we have, this is why you need to personalize it, right? Because Tim and I have opposite tendencies, right? It's hypo and hyper. Irritable. Yes, that's one. All right, good. So we're going to come back to that, but let's all define trauma. What is trauma? We're doing trauma superpowers. We better know what trauma is. Here's a little secret. Nobody agrees on this. Okay, nobody knows. It's made up. It's been redefined many times. But what's your version? What is trauma? Anyone sort of already, has anyone done sort of like a sort of multi-year trauma training, like a somatic experiencing or something like that? One or two of you? Okay. Well, you should definitely have an answer then, shouldn't you? So everybody else, come on, no wrong answers. What is trauma? Most interesting concepts like embodiment and trauma are best answered multiple ways. It's like if someone says, what is love? The correct answer to that is, baby, you don't hurt me. No, the correct answer to that is poetry, gesture, dance, neuroscience, literature. That's the answer to the question, what is love, right? If it was just one answer, it'd just be a boring topic. Does that make sense? There are some wrong answers, right? Punching someone is generally not love. Yeah. There are some wrong answers. There are occasions when it might be, but very rare. Survivor stress. People often use this too much, too soon, too often. Overwhelming. Yeah, overwhelm is a really important thing. Is it the event or is it the response to the event? Let's take our punch, right? I have done 20 years of martial arts. If someone were to try and punch me, would that be overwhelming? No, I wish for that on a daily basis, just for light entertainment. If I'm walking there, I really hope someone tries to mug me. So I walk around in the dark on my own, just for light entertainment. It's not overwhelming. 10 people with knives might be overwhelming. You see what I mean? It's subjective, isn't it? Subjective, depending on your skill and experience. Some of you look at me like very worried right now. I live in quite a safe place. The chances of me getting attacked at night in the west of England are quite rare. Actually, normally what happens is I walk under a bridge and this little old lady, and I try not to scare her as a burly, dodgy looking man. So experience to get stuck. Too little, too late, too infrequently. Yeah, it's more like neglect though, isn't it? Yeah, could be the other side of it. Oh, not talking about your sex life there, Frankie, I hope. Yeah. All right, good. There will be jokes like that all the way through. Don't take them personally. So definition of trauma. These are some simple ones, not the ones, but they're quite simple. Yeah. So we're talking about fight, flight, get into freeze. Sometimes people go into like fold, fawn, all sorts of other ones. It used to be in the event, but people have changed since then. overwhelm and powerlessness are really, really key. But we could be looking at it through a biological lens, like nervous system health, like Irene Lyons' stuff, very good. We could be looking at it through a memory lens, like it's a memory that isn't fully integrated. Yeah. Social lens, I like that one. Yeah. So there's people talk about big T and teachable trauma, you know, it gets complicated. I mean, we're actually looking at trauma through a learning lens, which is a very different lens because it's not pathology lens. It's completely different. We're not looking at it as symptoms. We're looking at it simply as skills people have learned, which is a very positive lens. Not sometimes you're better off in one of these than the other. Yeah. Well becomes dangerous. So this is what people mean by unsafety, right? Yeah. I quite like this one, a bit more poetic. You like that one? You like that one? I quite like that one. I think it's a bit poetic, but it's nice. Yeah, acute versus chronic trauma. So you can have acute trauma response that doesn't become something, you know, like if we have something like PTSD, which has a set of symptoms that have to meet a certain set of criteria, you could have trauma symptoms, but not full-blown PTSD, blah, blah, blah. Not just daily stress. This is really important. We're not talking about just getting upset about something. At the moment, there's this sort of politicization of trauma where people say, I'm triggered and I'm traumatized. No, you're not. You're just upset, Karen. Stop making a big deal about it. Yeah. Like there is this lowering of the bar of what trauma is, which if you've met someone who, for example, hasn't slept in 2 years or wakes up every night in cold sweat screaming because they think they're in Afghanistan, you treat people who say they're traumatized by me swearing a little bit differently. Yeah, you start to have some, I think it's actually disrespectful to those people. I mean, in my world, this is quite interesting because I can be talking to a middle-class housewife in California and then literally someone in Ukraine where I can hear artillery fire on the phone call while I'm talking to them. And that can be like 2 and 2:30 p.m. in my day. So I if I sound like I can feel quite strongly about this is because I have that juxtaposition, sometimes literally half an hour apart. Yeah. You guys are with me? Artillery is scary. Okay, so yeah, sets of symptoms. If we look at it through that lens, you've probably heard of reliving symptoms like flashbacks, though they're pretty rare. There's no hierarchy in trauma. Yes, there is. There's definitely a hierarchy. I mean, there is a degree. There's some truth in the fact that there's subjectivity in trauma, right? But I'm not gonna say that someone who's traumatized because they or thinks they're traumatized because they didn't get a pony when they were 10 years old is the same as someone who was gang raped. I'm just not going to put those two little girls in the same category. I'm sorry. Yeah. So let's use a bit of common sense. But the truth in that statement, there's no hierarchy, is there's a degree of subjectivity. Okay. I don't want to get into that argument anymore. We can at a later time. So hyperarousal. This is a key one. Key one. Most common trauma set of symptoms you'll see is things like anxiety and sleeplessness and aggression. Most common, super common. The other ones you'll see, of course, are the numbing symptoms, flat affects, you know, whether that be a cultural thing of the, we saw this the Russian smile. You like the Russian smile? Lack of facial affect. Very common, East Europe. Yeah, you'll see hardness around the eyes, all these different armoring bands. It could be psychosomatic symptoms. Kathy Kane is great on that. Really common, like stomach, sexual, stomach, skin, digestive. Yeah, they're the main ones. But there's certain systems you tend, like almost everyone with trauma has some sort of digestive issues, I've found. Avoidance issues, like staying away from triggers, like much less common, but I guess there are like small examples. Like I don't like being around fireworks. I will avoid fireworks if I can. They're not like a full-on trigger for me if I do hear them. I'm not hiding under the bed with the dog, but I'd rather avoid them. Yeah, because things that go bang aren't always great. Polyvagal theory is another way of looking at it. We're not doing like a full polyvagal course, so I would say that's something you could easily research for free with Deb Dana's books or videos from Deb's and Stephen Porges online. Really nice system to look at. It's the main one we used in Ukraine. And, you know, there's quite complicated versions of it that I think are worth looking at if it's your cup of tea. Simple version, I quite like this sort of level of simplicity, like understanding fawn responses is quite a nice addition. again, you can make that more complicated. This is the most ridiculous one I ever saw. Just because something begins with F doesn't mean it's a trauma response. Okay, guys, that's just alliteration. It's what I'd call mimetic learning. Mimetic learning. What is clear to me, though, is trauma has all these different elements. So it has an element that's physical, mental, even spiritual, social. You can't get away from the fact that it has this holistic quality. So if we just look at it in terms of biology, we're missing something, or psychology, we're missing something. So, for example, spirituality, people might have their meaning, they might become nihilistic, for example, they might lose their belief. Yeah, so there's all sorts of things. I think a really key one here is the relationships aspect to it. I think that's understated. Trauma's like way more than symptoms, right? Like it impacts people's thinking, their politics, their perception. Oh, we're going to have fun in America next week during the election when everybody's trauma responses are triggered. Joy that will be. Key themes: power, control, trust. I'm going quite quick here because I'm assuming some of this you've seen before. Is that a fair assumption? Like these aren't entirely new things. If you're thinking, God, this is quick and I need to play catch up, just spend the next week looking at a few YouTube videos on trauma, some of our videos on trauma, just some basics. I'm just trying to get everyone kind of on the same page. Like if you'd never understood that trauma can create issues around trust, just Google that. You'll find a whole load of resources. This is important. How might you think in a house fire? That's a good understanding of what it's like to live with trauma. Yeah. Personal impacts, I'll come back to that, but that's the key message. Actually, with trauma, you're not even in a relationship with someone. You're because they're in a relationship with the past, not with you, or at least the past projected onto you. Yeah, that's why people overreact with trauma, because you're instead of just thinking, oh, you're a bit annoying, there's like, oh, you're a life-threatening threat. It's existential. Okay, social impacts come into a bit more later on, but there's plenty of those. Everything is not trauma. Okay, this is really important. So what's not trauma? If it's trauma, symptoms or behaviors have a compulsivity, you lose freedom. Yeah, they're related to existentially threatening things. Like I felt threatened on some level, my safety very deeply. And a test of pathology is what I call the I, we, and it test. So does it make you unhappy and unhealthy? If it doesn't, I'm like, well, it's not really worth worrying about, right? Does it make you less relational? Yeah, like, does it get in the way of intimacy, connection? Okay. And does it stop you working? Does it make sense? And I think we all have stuff, as it were, that comes from the past, from difficult situations we've been in that wouldn't really meet those criteria, right? It'd just be like, yeah, not really a big deal. Okay. So that's, I think, worth considering. Like, it isn't linked to this existential kind of sense. So key things to understand. I think this is a very, very tight summary, but perceptual distortion, right? We're not seeing the world clearly. An over or under reaction. So this is actually another version of the superpowers. Like someone's got really, really good at something, really bad at something. We'll come to that later. The relationship can get fucked up. And, another thing is just how are people coping with all that, right? You can say that's like secondary symptoms if you want to look at it through a symptom model. So secondary model. And I want to take a picture of that. If you do, now's a good time. All right, take a breath. We just went at the speed of Walsh. If you are newer to trauma, you'll be like, "Blah!" Yeah. If you're fairly established in trauma, you'll be like, well, obviously, Mark, that was just all obvious. Somewhere between those two, most of you. Something a bit new, slightly different perspective, good reminders. Well, okay. So we're trying to get everyone on the same page of understanding some of the same things about trauma. Who thinks they might need to go play catch up this week? Might need to sort of look up a few videos and resources and loads of good stuff on YouTube. Don't be ashamed. Like just Google like trauma, Pete Levine, Gabor Mate, Stephen Porges, like the classics. If you put like 3 hours into watching YouTube videos, you'd probably know more about trauma than most therapists. Yeah. It's like 3 hours would do it, just while you're walking your dog. Okay. Cool. Kathy Kane, yeah, it's a Kain, I think. I think it's with a K. Kathy Kane's good. Kathy Kane and Debs Dana are like two of my favorite trauma educators, both very good. Yeah. Good. One thing I'd say is probably like the trauma rock stars often aren't that impressive. Like the really big names often aren't the best teachers, if I'm honest. Yeah. But like Pete Levine and stuff, it's like they were seminal in establishing the field, but they might not be the best use of your time if you've just got an hour on YouTube. So controversial. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Helen. Good. That leaves time for questions. What questions do you have about what trauma is, so we can establish a shared understanding? Do you get that it could be lots of things, right? Like I gave the example of me and Tim under or overeating, like as a sort of as a coping mechanism, and that's it, the secondary one, right? Like, numbing could show up in so many ways. It could show up as stiffness in the body, or it could show up as lack of empathy. Like totally different by the sounds of things, right? But both coming from numbing. I've got pretty good at seeing these things now. Lack of boundaries is a big one. If I have a student or a potential mentee and they're like really oversharing with me, I'm immediately just going trauma, red flag. Yeah. That's one of the ones I see most often. Yeah. Oh, by the way, someone just messaged me. Can a friend join? Yes. Until next week. So after next week, it's too late. So we can send them the recording of this, but I don't want people playing catch up beyond that. So if there's someone in fact, who do you know that might like this course? Have a quick think. Who would it be helpful for them? And they can get it for the same rate you got it as well. So Virginia's got a little code, I think, for you. Is that right, Virginia? And don't let anyone in after next week, Virginia. Please, 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 because it's just they're gonna if they come by next week, they have to watch this video and then they've got the ground stuff and then come. No one later than that. Anyone got a friend who you might want to do it with? A colleague who should do the course? Feel free to invite them. We're not a big group. So
That could be one of the resources, Mark.
Oh, for sure. Like if you've got doing a course with a friend, that's super helpful. I spoke to a Keck student in Taiwan today, and he was like, "Is anyone else doing it in Taiwan?" I was like, "No, bring a friend. It would be nice to talk in Chinese to someone." Like being able to discuss things in your own language, for example, like super helpful, super helpful. Yeah. All right. Good. We got time for questions. Yes, we have. Good. Left lots of time, so I hope you have some questions. I could go back on some of the slides if there was one you want to see again, but I thought I'd just leave time so you guys can clarify. Anything you don't understand? No bad questions. There are only bad people. No, so no bad questions.
I'm not sure if Duke put a hand up. Did you put a hand up then, Duke?
Can you type the questions? Is that all right? So is it a problem typing? Okay, I'll go on then. Go on. I usually ask for typing because it just makes people clearer in what they're saying.
And that's true. So my question is too long, but how about not getting rapport or calibration when a person is coming to me and I just can't seem to connect, which I normally can do fairly easy,
Sure.
but I don't, so is that also a, a way to recognize that there might be something?
I'd say it's an orange flag. So someone might have difficulty connecting because they're, say, autistic. It's not trauma, right? They might, have difficulty with eye contact, or my cousin's like that. It may simply be they're from a really different cultural background, right? Like that might be another issue. But if it were like someone like, hey, they're a Dutch woman, they're about my age. I kind of get on, I understand their work, I kind of understand their context. Sometimes it's the felt sense of a barrier. That's the kind of the normal empathy thing not happening. So that can be a sort of what I'd call an orange flag, like there's a question mark for me there. Or more often than not, actually, it's over familiarity because of the lack of boundaries. If your boundaries are being violated, you lose the sense of boundaries for yourself and others. So more often than not, it's over closeness. But sometimes with the armoring and the numbness, there's more of a feeling of distance. You'll see this culturally, right? Has anyone ever met someone from East Europe and thought, God, they're a bit cold, they're a bit standoffish, right? Like that can be like part of it. But again, cultural context, right? Like that's more normal in Ukraine or whatever. So yeah, it's a good question. That could be on your list for sure. But it's not the only reason, right? They just might not like you. Maybe someone told them that you're a dick or something, you know, who knows? So yeah, we want to be careful with saying anything that's definitely trauma, right? Because there's so many other possible causes, but that would be like part of a picture. I would like if that was happening and then they complained about some psychosomatic thing and then there was certain kinds of tension in their body, and they were telling me they couldn't sleep. Okay, now a picture's adding up, right? But the nice thing about the superpowers model is we're not diagnosing anyone. We're not in the business of diagnosing, so please don't go around telling people they have trauma. You don't actually need to do that at all. In the superpowers model, we say, hey, you know, some people have trauma. This is what it can lead to. You know, overwhelming experiences can lead to people developing skills that they're actually really good at something. Do you think that might apply to you? We always put it to the client, all right? And we're never saying, you know, we're not qualified to say you have generalized anxiety disorder because you tick these 17 of 20 boxes. We're not psychiatrists, right? That's not a job, and I'm not training you in that. So the nice thing about the superpowers model is it doesn't diagnose, which is also really safe, right? Because you get fucking sued. Yeah, it's really helpful to not. It's respectful, but it's also, I think, professionally appropriate.
Question in the chat, Mark.
Yes. What do we got? You mentioned stiffness as a kind of numbness. Yeah. So how do we not feel? This is an exercise you can do. Look at this, 2 pints on my desk. This is from Wendy Palmer, one of my teachers, late grade. So I can easily feel which of these has got water in. Yeah, you can try this with 2 glasses of water. It's that one. It's very easy. But if I tense my muscles and close my eyes, it's really hard to feel which one's got the water in. I do this experiment sometimes. So tensing means we don't feel, and it means we don't feel physically, but it also means we don't feel emotionally. So tensing the body is your defense against emotion. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's a skill in some ways, but it can lead to problems. Does that make sense? So chronic tension in what Reich, who was a student of Freud, called armoring bands. So this one, anyone got these? Yeah, this one. I tend to do the jaw. Chest. I am Polish, man. They walk around like this because they have armoring band in deltoids and pectoral muscles. Yeah. Or the worst of all, armoring bands in your ass, English people. Oh my God. Okay. Or in the genitals. That's no fun. You got to loosen that one up. Hey, baby, I know special technique to loosen it up. Don't know what action that is. So yeah, armoring bands in all these areas are possible, common, and somewhat cultural. Does that make sense? So it's the stiffness is an attempt not to feel. It's an adaptive response, right? Yeah. But it comes with consequences. Make sense? Yeah. Sometimes you'll see more like vapidness, like powerlessness in the body, like lack of tone rather than too much tone. Like, oh, there's nothing we can do. We're all so powerless. Does that make sense? Like learned helplessness, but that's a different kind of trauma. That's the flop response. Yeah. So, ever see that? Yeah. Kind of human beings that remind, you know, I won't use that metaphor. It's week 1. Virginia told me I have to be nice. So we'll use that metaphor another week. Pelvic floor, absolutely. Yeah, belly, chronic abdominal tension, super, super common. Yeah. Super common. When you're yeah, so thank you, Luke. So inability to control yourself is often around trauma because of the compulsivity. Yeah, so trauma is like it beats everything else. It takes over. It's like you have to run away. Yeah, so like I've seen soldiers jump under tables when they're like having a trauma response, and afterwards they're like really embarrassed. Yeah, but it's like it took over. It's something that takes you over. Or an alcoholic is like, I have to drink. They just have to. Yeah, that's an addiction. But if it's trauma that's driving that, it's like I can't feel this. Does that make sense? Yeah, so compulsivity, inability to control yourself, which, you know, as adults, we're generally pretty good at, right? Yeah, we're generally, you know, there's always things that are like the Achilles heel, but generally as adults, it's like, I was in a meeting earlier and I was getting pretty angry, but I managed to just be like, right, Mark, just don't be a dickhead, just calm it down. You know, like there's some degree of control as an adult. Whereas if I just flew into a rage, well, that might be an indicator that there's a trauma pattern at work. Yeah.
Question from Cornelia. Cornelia's got a question. It's above.
Your chat, Mark. I send it to you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah, there's a debate about this. Is a fawn response primary or secondary? Some people say that, like, particularly in women, the pro-social response should be added to the fight-flight response. And you'll see this when people are scared, they'll look to their friends and family and authority figures. I noticed whenever there was an explosion in Ukraine, people would look to me for reassurance, right? It'd be like quite a common pattern, particularly amongst women. So I think that, like, seeking social reassurance could be a primary response. Another way of looking at it, though, is that it's a learned pattern that's around simply fear. So it's just an anxiety, i.e. a flight response, and they're trying to soothe that anxiety with social soothing, which is quite appropriate, right? Co-regulation is the main way we soothe. I sometimes make the joke that when a baby cries, we don't tell it to do yoga, do we? When a baby cries, we make the baby noises and we rock it and we touch it and we sing and we do the baby stuff, right? Because that's co-regulation. Yeah, so we're co-regulated before we can self-regulate. So it would be surprising if we didn't have quite a deep instinct to co-regulate. Like, that's normal. Co-regulation is good, right? It's like, it's what you should do when you're stressed, right? It's much better than injecting heroin. Just go talk to your friend. Yeah, get a hug. You know, we are in this context in modernity or post-modernity of lack of co-regulation. Like, the village has been destroyed. Yeah, we are in the least co-regulatory culture that human beings have ever tried to survive in. It's fucking madness. So we're all on the verge of a fight-flight response the whole time because we're not in the tribe. Yeah, we're not singing and dancing and all speaking the same language and all worshipping the same gods and, you know, take your pick. Yeah. But I've been around African tribes that were way better co-regulated than we are. Like, even just like your baby's crying, you just give it to your friend and your sister who's there and go for a walk. Huh? I've had babies handed to me on the bus in Africa many times. I'm like, okay, clearly I'm in charge now. It's normal in some cultures. Cool. If you chew up a banana, you can mouth feed it to them. It's quite good. It's good baby food. All right. Takes a village, exactly. So we're in this kind of weird context. Don't get me started on that. It's kind of my specialist topic. But good. We're all still breathing. But that's a bad sign, by the way. If at any point you stop breathing for several minutes during this course, you're off the course. Okay. So that was a joke. Did you get the joke? Loss of sense of humor is also an orange flag. So, all right. Good. Give yourself a little wriggle, little shake, little stretch, talking about trauma stuff. By the way, if I'm talking about trauma and you like naturally start thinking about your own trauma, totally normal, but don't do it. Okay. What should you do instead? Come back to the present moment. Look around the room, count 3 things that are green. You know, how many fingers am I holding up? Look at me. Just treat it like a meditation. So we're not recreating all the bad things in our mind. Yeah. Makes sense? There's a discipline to that when you're learning about trauma. It's really natural to go, oh, Mark said car crash. I've been in a car crash. I'm going to think about that for the next 10 minutes. And then you just miss 10 minutes of the course. Yeah. Cool. Who's thinking about car crashes? Don't think about the car crash. No. Don't think about the purple penguins. There you go. Think about purple penguins. Good. A little bit of self-care, huh? Cool. Feel like you're in the right place? Yeah, it's going to be a good little course. I know if you're not used to the sort of style, it can be a bit strange. Like, having fun with trauma isn't normal. Unless you're Irish and have Jewish teachers and work in Ukraine, then it's the most normal thing culturally ever. Okay. My students are like, why is this American teacher not making any jokes? They are not as funny as you, Mark. Are they not well trained? I'm like, no, they're not well trained. They're not funny. So, yeah. So in my world, it's normal. I totally appreciate it. Might be a bit fresh than yours. Cool. Yeah, some people love the style. Some people. So please tell a friend if you want to bring someone else in. We're barely making anybody off this course. It'd be nice to have a few more people here. We did okay, but it'd be nice to have a few more. So do bring a friend next week if you want. Virginia's got that code. Make sure you take care of yourself. And if you're feeling like, yeah, I've got lots to learn about trauma. Yep, you've got the time. You've got the internet. It's all good. It's much easier now than when I was a boy and I started learning about trauma in 1864. I'd have to walk up the hill to see Paul Linden for 5 miles. Right, there we go. Any technical difficulties, Virginia? Cool. That were nothing. Has anyone seen Monty Python? When I learned about trauma as a lad, my trauma teacher would beat me around the head with Peter Levine's arms after he'd ripped them off. Like, Monty Python, never mind. They always, it's something people do actually when they're talking about trauma. They like exaggerate their stories and go more and more. We should make that homework. Good. Should we do a VU together? Let's do a polyvagal VU, just to calm our nervous systems after being fully washed. So take a nice deep breath in and say, VU. It's nice, isn't it? Do a couple more of them, particularly if you've got your dinner next. If you feel yourself getting sleepy or a bit too downregulated, you can always stop. VU. It's quite nice, isn't it? Quite nice. Quite like that one. Yeah, super simple. Darius having a good time. All good? Good. By the way, you will laugh more if you're doing this course right on this trauma course and you want any other trauma course. We're going to have a good time. Okay. Superpowers perspective is very positive. All right. Good. Should we leave it there? Look at that. Boundaries like a motherfucker. Like, mwah! 7 p.m. Mwah! On time. So leave it there. Cheers, everyone.